No cheating. That is multi-generational. No cheating. If you didn't get a bingo sheet yet, they're up at the front corner here. Make sure you get a bingo card. Just need a pen or a pencil or marker or lipstick, whatever you want to use. Good morning. Take a seat, grab a bingo card. Thank you all for coming. I'll whistle. That's my superpower. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Valerie Herzog, and I am your District 7 Director. I'm also an athletic training department chair up at Weber State University, right up the road. Thank you. Woohoo! Thank you. Go Wildcats. Thank you all for coming. I wanted to do a little more interactive NATA update today, so it wouldn't be so dry. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. We'll see. We're going to play bingo, and this is how it's going to work. Using a pen or a marker, as you see an NATA member benefit on the screen, if you have personally taken advantage of that NATA member benefit and it's on your bingo card, you get to mark it off. As you get bingo, you're going to stand up and yell bingo. I've got 3 wonderful assistants in the room who will come and bring you a bag of prizes you'll get to choose from. I've got NATA t-shirts, I've got koozies, NATA. I've got some from New Orleans, get you excited about NATA this summer. And then I brought some from my program. I've got a femur pen, which are kind of cool, a Penlight pen with a stylus, and a closed loop exercise rehab band. So you get to pick your prize. And you'll also need to share, just shout out, what is your favorite NATA member benefit. So, and we'll keep playing until we're at the end of the slideshow, we're out of prizes. So whoever's first early bingos gets to pick the first prizes. So if you just came in, if you didn't get one, there's some NATA bingo cards up here at the front desk. If you didn't get one, grab one. David's got some in the back for you. So we hear this a lot. Why should I join the NATA? What does the NATA do for me? And I'm not going to ask anybody to raise hands, but I'm sure a lot of you have thought that at some point in your life, and that's okay. And I'm hoping by the end of today, maybe I'll have a better appreciation of all that NATA has done for all of us throughout our careers. So just a quick snapshot. Our current NATA membership is at about 35,000, depending on when you take that snapshot. If you saw our recent campaign, I am NATA. So a lot of times people say, what does NATA do for me? Well, we're all NATA. So if NATA, if RMATA, if your state association isn't meeting your needs, you got to speak up and tell us what it is you need and how we should work on it, right? So our campaign this year was I am NATA. If you had a post, like wonderful Hannah up here, I get to share her. If you participated in the I am NATA campaign, that's your first thing you can look for on your bingo card and mark it off. But really, we're stronger together. If you think about what any association can accomplish, at the end of the day, it's about time, talents, and resources, right? And the more of us that contribute our time, talents, and resources, the more we can accomplish. We really are stronger together, but we need everybody. We need everybody to stay a member and to get involved and contribute. Coming up is the NATA. This is our 75th conference, not the 75th year of the NATA, but the 75th NATA conference. It's going to be in New Orleans. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you have registered for it, if you're planning to go, and I'll even give it to you. If you've been to a past NATA conference, I'll let you mark that one off. It's on your bingo board. They are changing it up a little bit, so the programming is going to end at 5 o'clock every day. It's not going to start at 6 in the morning. It's not going to go till 8 o'clock at night. There's going to be bigger breaks in between sessions, so you'll have a good half an hour in between sessions, so you actually have time to go chat with a speaker or chat with a colleague on your way to your next session. There'll be 15 CEUs available on site, and then an additional 5 CEUs you can get afterwards from watching some of the recordings. So you'll still get a full 20 CEUs, but trying to give you a little more time to enjoy the social aspects of going to the conference, just like we've done here. As somebody was mentioned, we are doing some new updated position statements, and these are actually run by an NATA Foundation committee, but they are somewhat funded by the NATA. I actually am the board liaison to this group. So see, these are some of the either new position statements or some that are being updated. So concussion bridge statement, tibial bone stress, asthma, emergency action planning, youth sport, sports specialization development, pediatric overuse injuries. And I will bring up the work-life balance. That was an excellent point in the question from the previous session, so thank you. So if you have ever utilized any of these position statements, or if you've directed your students to utilize these position statements, you can mark that off on your bingo board. You should see those. NATA has a ton of resources for students, and again, if you have used these resources when you were a student, or if you've ever directed a student to these resources, you can mark these off on your board if you see any of them on there. The Chuck Kimmel First Time Attendee Award, and for those of you who are not aware, Chuck was our 10th NATA president and recently passed away this week. Very unfortunate, much too young to go. But so that award just got a little bit more special. Bobby Gunn Student Leadership Award, if any of you participated in the 18-month video contest. If any students, or if you haven't, now you know these resources are out there. There's a study guide for the BOC exam. Clinical immersion experience, you can search for those of you in programs where you kind of go and you do clinical immersion experiences away from your typical program sites. There is a research study service where you can purchase or use, they can distribute your survey for you if you do a lot of survey research. There's a study abroad toolkit if you're interested in study abroad. NATA members receive a discount on your BOC exam, so if you got that when you were taking your BOC, you're like, hey, I got that discount for my NATA membership. There's a student writing contest. We've had a couple students over the years win some money from the foundation. And then, of course, there's a career starter discount. So we know that in your first job, even though salaries have gone up, there's a lot of first-time expenses, right? Moving expenses and your student loan payments are kicking in. So you can request a career starter discount on your NATA membership for your first couple years on the job. So if you've taken advantage of those resources and you find them on your bingo board, mark them off. I might start getting some bingos here soon. We'll see. NATA Educate. So this replaces the previous NATA, kind of the online library system they used to use. It's much slicker. It's much easier to search for the types of courses you want. And with your NATA membership now, instead of saying, you used to get 10 free CEUs, now you get $150 to use in the NATA Educate service. And you can use them for some of the virtual events as well. So for example, CopaCon is coming up. You can use your $150 towards NATA CopaCon because it's a virtual event. You can't use it for live events, but you can use it for select virtual events. So if you've ever used the NATA Online Resource Center, either the old one or the new one, you can mark that off. If you've used your NATA benefit to access some of those free CEUs through the library, you can mark that off. This is a great new resource. I think has anybody used it yet? I think it's a lot easier to navigate. It's much nicer. Now, I'm stealing Michelle's thunder a little bit, NATA Foundation scholarships and grants, but you may or may not know that for many years, the NATA has at least partially funded the work of the NATA Foundation. So we do support their work, whether in kind or actual financial donations. So since up through 2023, there have been over $4 million in scholarships awarded to students. Almost 2,000 students have received a scholarship. So if you have ever received an NATA scholarship, or you've nominated somebody for a scholarship, or you've written a letter of support for somebody to get a scholarship, you can mark this on your bingo board. If you've received a research grant, or you participated in the process of evaluating these scholarships and grants, or you participated in the free communications program, this is all run through the foundation, you can mark that off. You presented a poster, an oral presentation of your research at NATA. It's not going. There we go. Secondary school resources for athletic trainers. There are a ton of these. The Secondary Schools Athletic Training Committee with the NATA has been super active and really productive. I know a lot of you have participated in that. So if you've used Atlas, either you put your information into Atlas or you've accessed Atlas, and I know you might think, well, heck, Atlas is a KSI resource. KSI is supported by the NATA financially. Maybe you didn't know that. So we help make that happen. The Secondary School Athletic Trainers Toolkit, the value model, there's policies for supporting transgender students on your teams, there's ethical and legal parameters around supporting transgender athletes. There's the program assessment for safety in schools. What else? There's some recruitment toolboxes, guidelines for developing that team physician agreement. There's a secondary school position proposal guide, so if you're trying to convince your school or a new school to create a position or to add a position. There's some great infographics that maybe you use in your classes. And then, of course, there's a secondary school town hall at NATA. Anybody getting close to bingo? All right, if you get one, just shout it out, and our prize deliverers will come to you. Advocacy, a big part of what NATA does. We got a bingo? Woo-woo! Stand up, Karen. Shout out, what is your favorite NATA member benefit? Doesn't have to be one you just checked off. CEUs? All right, CEUs. Awesome. You can pick. You don't have to. You can pick. You're first. You get to pick what you want. All right, T-shirt. Oh, another one? All right. Somebody good.
Schools, because that's where I am, so I use the resources all the time.
Awesome. Very good. All right, so advocacy. NATA has supported states with legislative grants. I know in Utah we did legislative boot camp. Some of you have done this as well, so if you've participated in these. They have an email service where it makes it really easy to send an email to legislators. You just click and put in a few words, and it's real simple. There's great staff support if you receive support from the staff, Amy Callender, Dina Kuykendall. If you've served on or received support or advice from the Governmental Affairs Committee. You may have seen the NATA Beat is the new newsletter that came out. You should have just received the first one a few weeks ago, summarizing all of the NATA advocacy efforts. There's some great resources on the NATA website, governmental affairs webinars. There's social media tips for legislative advocacy. There's resources on how to communicate effectively with legislators, and then there's a grassroots advocacy calendar. So look for those on your bingo board. Feel free to just shout out, interrupt me if you get a bingo. Leadership training and opportunities. I think this is probably one of my favorite NATA member benefits. I've had a lot of opportunities to lead and serve and grow my leadership skills. I have not yet participated in the Leadership Academy, but I've heard that's great, so look for that one. Any of you who've been state leaders on your state boards, you may have attended the State Leadership Forum. There's a State AT Leadership Toolkit. There's leadership training programs. There's webinars and resources related to conflict management, leadership strategies, leadership styles across generations. So if you've participated in anything in this, or if you've had leadership opportunities through the association, you can mark that off too. National Athletic Training Month, we are at the tail end, but it is still Happy National Athletic Training Month. If you've ever used resources provided by the NATA to promote the profession, maybe in your workplace, so your employers kind of appreciate you. If you've had somebody use it to maybe do a public service announcement and thank the ATs at your school or your work site, anywhere else, you can mark off National Athletic Training Month. They've got tons of resources on the website that make it easy for you to advocate for yourself and for the profession. How many of you are like, what is that middle space, darn it? I want that. It's usually a free space. It's coming. Just hold tight. I'll talk about it in a minute. I know there's going to be a million bingos once I get there. The NATA over the years has developed a ton of resources for those of you working in these more non-traditional settings. So if you are one of these individuals that has accessed these services, or maybe you're an educator or in a high school and you've talked to students who are interested, I want to be an athletic trainer, but I don't want to work those long hours, nights and weekends, and I want a more 9 to 5, or I'm really interested in the military setting, and you've used some of these resources to share with them and talk to them about the other opportunities for careers within AT. You can mark this one off. COPACON registration is open now. It is a virtual event, and so I mentioned you can use those $150 you're getting from your NATA membership to pay for your CopaCon registration, so it's pretty much free. They have military job codes, patient satisfaction data, value models, all kinds of resources available if you're one of those who work in these non-traditional settings. All right, here's a center spot. Get ready, my gift givers, because there's going to be a million bingos here in a minute. If you have ever shared with someone else why you value your NATA membership, you can mark off that centerpiece. And if you haven't, I'm going to give you an opportunity right here. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Turn to the person sitting next to you and tell them why you value your NATA membership, and you can mark off that centerpiece. Now shout out your bingos. I'm sure that created some bingos. Just stand up if you got one. None? All right, I knew there had to be some. Stand up. We've got 3 gift givers. We'll bring you prizes. What's your favorite?
I appreciated the scholarships that NATA did.
Awesome. They're big too. $2,300, right? That's a lot of money. Anybody else? No other bingos after I gave you the center spot? Okay, see, I knew we'd have others. What's your favorite?
I love the position statements.
All right, position statements. Awesome. No others? I thought we'd have like 100 bingos after that one. All right, I'll keep going. Just interrupt me and shout out, and we'll bring you prizes. NATA Honors and Awards. So we've got several 2024 award winners from our district this year. Most Distinguished Athletic Trainer, Bart Anderson, Chris Mathewson, and Allison Snyder-Valier. Super excited. NATA offers a ton of awards every year, Hall of Fame, NATA Fellows. There are a lot of award winners in this room. If you have ever received an NATA award, or if you have ever nominated or supported the nomination of somebody to get an NATA award, you can mark that off on your sheet. All right, advocacy and support for diversity efforts. You may or may not know, we just did some reorganization. We've created this DEIA council. So we've got the chair from each of these committees below will serve as kind of the council directors. So we've got under that is the Ethnic Diversity Advisory Council, the LGBTQ Advisory Committee, and we now have an accessibility work group for those who have accessibility issues. So this group provides resources for diverse individuals, cultural competence training, supports coworkers. If you've attended town halls at NATA or if you've utilized any of these resources, you can mark that off on your sheet. Or if you've participated and supported these efforts, you can mark that one off. There are legal resources. If you've ever found yourself in a legal pickle or you've worked to avoid getting yourself in a legal pickle, they have the NATA, the Sports Medicine Legal Digest is put out by the NATA. If you've ever read it or accessed it, if you've been involved or used any of the resources developed by the Professional Responsibility and Athletic Training Committee, and Jason McWilliams is our newest D7 rep to that committee. He can tell you all about that once he dives in a little deeper. They have best practices for AT documentation. Maybe you've used that. What the athletic trainers should know about sexual abuse signs, symptoms, and duty to report, or the NATA liability toolkit.
Bingo.
Awesome, bingo over here. Lisa Walker, what's your favorite NATA member benefit?
Being able to call them on a moment's notice for help on all things legislative, on advocating on behalf of others.
Awesome. So the accessibility of staff and other support for legislative efforts.
Super accessible.
Thank you. Workplace advocacy. So this is kind of getting at some of the stuff that Corey was talking about. The NATA salary survey, the new data is going to come out in the April NATA news. So if you've ever used this data to negotiate for a higher salary or show your employer that you're being paid under what the average is, if you've ever utilized the NATA Career Center to post a job or look for a job, you can mark off that bingo space. If you've utilized the resource appropriate medical care standards for organizations sponsoring athletic activity and the secondary school athlete to advocate for more staff at your school to say, hey, a half athletic trainer is not enough here, we need more, or maybe even one is not enough, we need more. And same thing, there's the Inter-Association Collegiate Standard of Care Toolkit, the work-life balance. There is the position statement, but there's also been articles and webinars. If you've ever received the Safe Sports School Award, so you can showcase to your school how valuable you are and the benefits and the value you bring, you can mark that off on your board. Any other? We got a bingo? Awesome. What's your favorite benefit?
AT Cares and the CUs.
Awesome. AT Cares and CUs. We'll talk about AT Cares in just a minute. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Gosh, I thought we... Huh?
Can you only get bingo once?
You can only get a prize once, but you can keep playing. If there's more left over, we'll do more at the end. Support for educators, and this is both for educators at the secondary school level as well as educators at the university higher education level. If you've ever accessed the Educators Toolkit, if you've attended the NATA Educators Conference or the virtual conference, it's going to be virtual. They're actually accepting submissions right now. If you've participated in any discussions on Gather in the educationalist community, those of you in the secondary school, if you've used the sports medicine course outline that they developed, there's a case studies workbook for secondary schools, and this is a really great resource for university educators too. The case studies are all at the secondary school level, but they're really awesome, and you could use them at any level. Resources for navigating the degree change. I know I was on the Katie Commission when we did that, and that was a little uncomfortable and messy and a ton of work for everybody, but the NATA helped guide us through that. Preceptor training materials, such as the Master Preceptor training courses. There are simulations available on the site. There's student recruitment resources. I actually just recently did a webinar for the NATA on student recruitment and marketing. And then again, a ton of infographics that you can use in your classes. So you can mark those off if you've used any of the resources as an educator. Bingo. Oh, bingo, awesome. What's your favorite?
AT's Care with student member benefits.
Awesome, thank you. The NATA, and you may not be as familiar with this, NATA has invested quite a bit of money in the third-party reimbursement project. It's a slow-moving ship. It'll move a lot faster once we get national recognition and once we get licensure in all 50 states. But we have had success in billing they are currently engaged in about 25 states with their efforts. So they've created documentation resources, billing 101 resources, credentialing, how to get credentialed by an insurance company. There's a third-party reimbursement boot camp that's separate from the legislative boot camp. We did both in Utah recently. There's best practices for billing in a college setting. And if any of you are still using, what's that software? Just went dark, federal indictment, you know what I'm talking about? Say it louder. Not Epic. Viviture. So if any of you are using Viviture, come talk to me after. They just got federally indicted, the owners. Coding overview for athletic trainers, dealing with reimbursement denials, and that's something that anybody can help with. In the collegiate setting, a lot of times you submit a claim for an athlete and it gets denied, and we have to help advocate for those athletes, or maybe even in the high school settings. They have a ton of data, and they are getting ready to release their research. They've been gathering data from all of the insurance companies, and that's really going to be a game changer. You know, when we go to insurance companies and we say, how are you going to bill for our services? You know, athletic trainers, we're just as good as the other providers, and we're cost effective, and they go, show us the data. And we're like, well, we can't show you the data because you won't let us bill. And they're like, well, we're not going to let you bill if you can't show us the data. And so we've been stuck in that for quite a while. Now we have the data. So we're putting together a big research study, and it's going to be published. It's going to be awesome. It'll really be a game changer, so keep an eye out for that. So if you've utilized any of these third-party reimbursement resources, you can mark that on your bingo board. New NATA product, or AT product. So if you've gone to NATA and gone into the expo, I love it in there. I tell my students, I can read about something online, but like For example, when diathermy first came out, or shockwave therapy, I just went into the expo and I said, hey, hook me up, tell me what this is, explain it to me, let me feel it, and then I could go back and teach to my students, or I could decide if I really wanted to buy it or not. Expo is a super fun place. So if you've gone to these expos and you've learned about new products, you can mark that off on your board, gotten free stuff, whatever it is. Support. So already a couple people have mentioned AT's Care, and if you're not familiar with that, Kim, are you in here? So do you want to just talk for a minute? Just share them what AT Cares is? I think it's better coming from you.
AT's Care is peer support for athletic trainers who've been through critical incident, either caring for an athlete, had something personal happen to you. Doesn't have to be a high-end traumatic thing, but basically you need another AT who gets it. Because we are ATs and we get it. And so it's a way that you can refer someone who you think could use some help, or reach out for yourself, and one of us will give you a call within 24 hours, check on you. We're not asking where's the athletic trainer, we're asking how is the athletic trainer. We're trying to make sure we're there for each other.
Thank you. This is an amazing resource funded by the NATA. So you may have known someone or supported someone when they lost an athlete or had an athlete suffer a catastrophic injury. And as the athletic trainer, you're supposed to take care of everybody, right? You're supposed to counsel the team. You're supposed to counsel the players. You're supposed to counsel the coaches, the parents, all the other students affected, the other teams. And who's taking care of you? It's AT's Care. So they're the ones that are going to reach out to you, and they get it because they're all athletic trainers too, and they've received special training. And so they're there to support you. So if you've ever taken advantage of this resource, you referred somebody to this resource, or gosh, you wish you knew this resource was there, you can mark that off. The NATA Foundation also sponsors a faculty mentoring program. I've participated in that. If you've ever participated, you can mark that off. There's also a mentor match program through NATA for any athletic trainer who would like to be a mentor or be mentored, get matched with a mentor. How many of you have ever come to one of these conferences and gotten informal support from your peers? This is a picture on the side. I call it my AT family, and I've got lots of different AT families, but this is the one I only get to see when I go to the national conference. And we always make time, we always get together for dinner, and we support each other, and it's magical. I've got my RMATA family here too. It's a wonderful thing. So if you've been supported by that, and discussions on Gather, other discussions, if you vented or sought advice, or maybe you've just read on Gather and you've learned something new. That's supported by the NATA. Oh, we got some bingos. Awesome. All right, stand up. Tell us, what's your favorite NATA member benefit?
Probably the convention or the leadership opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah.
I would say I love national athletic training, love thinking about stuff.
Awesome. Thanks. And I've got another t-shirt. Oh, I've got another t-shirt up here too if we're running out of t-shirts. What's your favorite?
I'm a little biased. LGBTQ plus advisory committees were pretty great. I will say the educator toolkit and of course the CPUs.
Awesome. And for those of you may not be aware, in the district, and I don't want to steal Jim's thunder, but we have developed a LGBTQ plus task force within our district that is working on developing a committee here for our district, and what does that look like, and what are the needs, and what should they be working on. So that's what that task force is involved with. If you're interested, you can reach out to Jim. If you have ever read or used any of the resources in any of these NATA publications, the Athletic Training Education Journal, the NATA News, the Journal of Athletic Training, they have the online NATA chats, timely topics that Kathy mentioned. You weren't in the student session. NATA Cast podcasts. If you've ever accessed any of these resources, you can look for those on your bingo board. A blackout. Nice. Did you already have a bingo too? I assume. That's awesome. I'm hoping we get some blackouts in here. Any other bingos? Throw up a hand, stand up, shout out. What's your favorite NATA benefit? Podcasts. Awesome. I think that's a very generational thing, right? Students love podcasts. I'm like, what's a podcast? but I've given one. Any other bingos? All right, I'll keep going. Any questions? Any of you ever asked one of us a question? Gotten an answer you needed? Learned something new? That's not even on there. But I'm open to questions right now. Mark.
Good morning, Val. Good morning, everybody. Does anybody have NATA pack on their bingo card? Thanks for throwing shade on NATA pack.
Wow. Hang on. Just wait. Advocacy. NATAPAC is a big part of our advocacy efforts at the federal level. This is how we fund our federal legislative efforts. Thank you. Give to the PAC. I'm sorry, Mark. So this is something I share with my students, and I will share with all of you too as your district director. I know it may come as a shock to some of you, but I am not perfect. I'm going to screw up. Please call me on it.
And you're a big supporter of the PAC.
And I'm a big supporter of the PAC, absolutely. Any other questions about NATA? Anything you want to know? I am an open book. If I can't share it, I won't share it, but if I can, I will answer any question I can.
Can I ask a question of the group?
Sure.
How do you want NATA to connect to you?
Question is, how do you want NATA to connect to you? Lisa is the District 7 representative to the NATA Connections and Engagement Committee. And really their purpose are to find ways for the NATA to connect you with one another, to connect you with the NATA, to give you opportunities for engagement.
How do we get the NATA back west? Because I can't afford to travel and hotel. It's coming. Back east, New Orleans back every summer.
Yeah, so the NATA convention site is always a very complex formula that the meetings department looks at. So they look at cities who can handle the size of the NATA, and that's actually pretty limited. They look at hotel availability and affordability. How many of you want to go to San Francisco and pay $400 a night for a hotel room? It's tricky, right? And so they have to look at affordability. They have to look at the overall cost of the venue itself. There's a lot of different issues they have to look for, and that makes it a little harder to come out west. Vegas was great, but believe it or not, a lot of people say, oh, you remember Vegas used to be so cheap, you go to a $10 all-you-can-eat prime rib buffet, and now it's $70, right? So Vegas has even gotten expensive, and so it's tricky. It's tricky, but they do want to come out west more. And here's the other thing, in RMATA, we're talking about this in the boardroom too, this crystal ball. You notice we're much smaller than we used to be. NATA conference attendance is about half of what it used to be. And that's, number one, a big source of our revenue, but it's also, we plan the conference multiple years out. You've got to book these venues several years in advance. And so now we're kind of rolling, right, do we need a venue that can hold 13,000 members, right? And so do we pay for the bigger, more expensive venue? You know, are we going to recover, or is this our new normal? Are we going to have smaller attendance at NATA and RMATA? And if so, can we save money by going to a smaller venue and be better stewards of finances? But when you're booking 2 years out, 3 years out, it's tricky. Everybody has this crystal ball. Are people going to come back to conferences? Are they going to take advantage of all these benefits and support you get and the reason that you all came here? Or are they just, you know, need to save money and want to stay home and do online education? And we don't know. I think the industry as a whole, everybody planning conferences still doesn't know. So conference planning right now is tricky for everybody.
Two things. Salt Lake City's hosted the Olympics. I think that would be an awesome example that we can host NATA. So, and then second, I have a lot of colleagues that have, not a lot, but I've had multiple ask about what's the point of having an NATA membership. And so this is going to your question, Lisa, I mean, like, your presentation today has been great at explaining all the benefits, because there's things that I've forgotten and we're not aware of as well. Even though I've continued to be a member, but it's like, it would be nice to be able to have this information to present to them, so that they feel that investment is worth paying that price.
Thank you, and that's why I did this. I really appreciate that. And I know it's tricky in here, right, preaching to the choir, because you are all NATA members and you're here at the conference, right? So I'm kind of preaching to the choir on this one, but I'm hoping you'll go back, and now when somebody asks you or you hear from somebody, I don't think I'm going to renew my NATA membership. It's just not worth it. Hopefully now you can articulate why you're an NATA member and why they should be an NATA member. And as far as Salt Lake Olympics, we are currently, if you didn't know, we are currently the only bidder for the 2034 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake. It's going to be super exciting. We're going to need lots of volunteers to help out. So I met with the USOC medical director at a previous conference, and he said if you're interested in helping out in LA, you can just Google Summer Olympics, Los Angeles, volunteers. You don't have to have participated and done the 2-week USOC, you volunteer your time for 2 weeks and work your way up. They just need a ton of volunteers in Los Angeles. So if you're interested in getting involved with the Olympics, and then that will even position you too, if you like to stand in the snow and help out when they're in Salt Lake in 2034. Be super exciting.
Before the next question, can I go back to Wayne's?
Sure.
Yeah? Hey, CEC hosts quarterly town halls on different topics. And it goes out.
Connection Engagement Committee.
Connection Engagement
Love our
Committee.
acronyms.
From the NATA, we host them online for anyone in the nation to attend. So I'll send you a personal invitation next time. But it's out there. That information's out there too. And if we could get you guys to join in, that'd be great, because we're trying to figure out how to reach you. Okay, thanks.
Karen?
I think nationally, we're so spread out as an organization, as far as there's the NATA, then there's the Educators Conference, and then there's COPACON, as you mentioned today. And why not either combine all of those for one conference so we could all be in one place? Or even on a bigger level, if the logistics would work out, how about the Strategic Alliance coming together and offering the conference? So we don't have the Katy Educators Conference and the NATA. We have everyone coming together to save money.
I 100% agree. If you didn't hear Karen's comment, she said, why do we have all these separate conferences? Why can't we just bring it all together at the NATA? And I have actually proposed just that on more than one occasion, and to create we've got the big NATA conference, but then we have an Educators Day track, and we have a COPACON track, and they are working on that. They are, and I am 100% in agreement in that. The Katie's actually stopped having an accreditation conference, but we would certainly welcome them to come and have a track or some accreditation sessions, absolutely. And maybe the BOC with their care, I think that'd be a great idea. Absolutely, thank you. Any other questions? Here, if you want to know something about the NATA, ask me. Something you've heard on social media, I'm happy to address it. I know there's some not nice things sometimes said about the NATA. And again, I'm happy to address it right here. Go to the mic or just shout it out or tell somebody else to ask for you. I don't care. But I would just remind you that we are all the NATA. All of us in this room, we are the NATA. And like I said, I'm not perfect. I'll screw up. Mark can attest to it. I'm Mark 1, Val 0. But the NATA is not perfect either. But, I was talking to a friend, and she actually, she started an AT program at a new university inside of a physical therapy department. And I said, anybody involved in advocacy efforts, you've gotten beaten down by them a bit. And I said, how'd you do that? How did you navigate that? And she said, we came to the table every day with the philosophy and reminded everybody at the beginning of every day, we said, assume positive intent. Assume positive intent. So rather than coming to the table and being like, oh, I know why you did that, you're out to get us, you're trying to diminish us, right? They came to the table saying, I want to be open, I want to be curious. I'm sure they had a good reason for doing that. Let's talk about that. And I would ask you to do that for the NATA too, and the RMATA and your state association. We are here to support you. We are here together to work for you to try to move this profession forward. If you think of where this profession was 75 years ago and where we are now, the settings we're in, the way our salaries improved, the respect, the way we're treated as healthcare professionals, that has been the work of all these volunteers and the NATA staff working for you. So when you see something and you're like, I don't know if I agree with that, if you could shift your mindset to assume positive intent and then be curious and ask a question, that's what we'd love to see. But ask the question, of course. Yeah, Glenn and then Hannah.
Just want to mention that one of the things that a lot of us have been concerned about for several years as a seasoned athletic trainer is how we are represented in the media. And I don't know if people are paying attention to NFL, NCAA, March Madness, or anything. At any time, Mike Tirico is the athletic training staff. All of the sideline reporters, many of them, athletic training staff. And it's my understanding that that's from the NATA. That's their
That took
push,
years.
right? That took years to get AP polls, or the AP media, all of the Associated Press, to really push that. And it's starting to happen. I mean, it's really starting to happen. Not everywhere, but it's starting to happen.
If you watch a football game on TV and somebody goes down, they go, and the athletic training staff is going out to provide support, right? That took years and a lot of money and time and effort. Absolutely. Hannah.
So I know, I hate this. Being involved in leadership, I know there's a lot more that I feel like I've been exposed to and I know about just because of the background that I have and the information that we get from the NATA on our committees. But how is the NATA becoming more transparent? How are we creating more transparency for those not members, those not here at the convention? How is NATA creating that transparency so we know exactly what you're doing other than coming to this update, right? We know how do we get that information as individuals, or how do we pass along that information?
Yeah, well, I mean, regular newsletters, I mentioned the NATA Beat is a new one, and I had pushed for that, actually. I said, I know the NATA is doing a lot of federal advocacy, but we're not talking about it. We need to tell people what bills we're supporting. We need to tell people which candidates we're supporting, and that's where that newsletter is coming from. I'm here to answer your questions. If there's something we're not doing that you want to know more about, let me know, and we'll step it up. But I'm all about transparency. I'm all about sharing. You can ask the faculty in my department. Every single budget is in a box folder, and they can see every budget. They can look at whatever they want to in my department. I share everything except people's salaries, but that's actually posted somewhere else anyway. But I am happy to share. I'm open book. Let me know what you want to know, and if there's something NATA is not sharing, not communicating clearly enough, let us know. Let me know. I have about 1 more minute for another question, if anybody else has anything. If not, I'll be around the rest of the weekend. I'll be at the cornhole tournament tonight. Register and sign up. There's a QR code up here. We do have more prizes, so those of you with my prize bags, if you could come up to the front, and if for playing bingo, come and pick. Just hop in line and get some cool prizes. Heather asked me to remind you too, the RMATA Awards Banquet Luncheon is this afternoon. There are still some tickets available, and it's free. A lovely free lunch, and help us honor those who've been serving our district. So go to the registration desk, and you can get a lunch banquet ticket. Nice free lunch. Thank you all very much. Come get the rest of my prize. Come get more prizes so I don't have